talking about the parts of the biography that are indeed authentic, we come to the so-called Constitution of Medina.
Yes. And let me tell you, this is the best. This is the best right now. This is the best document that you have that might be in favor of um, Muhammad in according, closer to what Muslims are saying. And I don't know if I forgot or I missed it, but this is the most damning document against the revisionists, the Constitution of Medina, because most scholars do think that this is a legit document, okay? Even though it doesn't mention Muhammad by name, so it's still problematic, right? However, I mean, not the one. I mean, it's still not a document that you have a version of it that is dated back to Muhammad's time that mentions Muhammad. Like you have references to it a lot later that is probably tampered with, which we'll get to why soon. But I don't know if I forgot or I missed it or I was like half asleep, but this book doesn't even mention that. So I don't know why it doesn't mention it. And I'm looking in the index right now. Maybe I forgot. Like, how could you not mention? Look at this. I'm looking at the index. I'm looking at CO. I'm listening Constantine.
Is there anything listed under Medina?
Okay, I'm looking Constitution, Constantinople. Nope. Okay, look at Medina. It doesn't mention. This is the most important document that this book should have referred to, and it's not referring to. So I'm sensing some bias in this book. See, guys, I'm being very objective with you guys here. Eh? I'm even arguing against the revisionist position that I'm taking, because this Constitution of Medina is Medina M-A nope, nothing. Nope. No, nothing. So I have to refer to my own. Let's analyze this together. See if the Constitution of Medina proves the existence of Muhammad. Okay.
Hey guys, before we get back to that video, YouTube has fully demonetized our channel for supposedly hateful and harmful conduct, without telling us what we did wrong. If we get to 1,000 patrons, we will be able to keep paying all our team, our editors, our artists without ever having to worry about monetization again, which would be amazing. Yay! So please support Atheist Republic on Patreon. Link in the description below.
Was a document that was written by the Prophet to serve as kind of a treaty between the different peoples in Medina at his arrival there in 622 or 624. Even the most skeptical historians do believe that this document is largely authentic. There are some...
Even Tom Holland, right? Not the Spider-Man guy, the historian one, right? Even him, who's one of the most famous non-propagandist pro-revisionist. So here's the thing. Like Tom Holland and I think, what's his name? Dan Gibson. Is that his name?
I believe so.
Yeah, Dan Gibson. These are scholars. I mean, Dan Gibson is not a scholar. Tom Holland is the most famous scholar who is not a pro-Christian, anti-Islam propagandist. That is very much in favor of a revisionist view of this history. Okay, so the problem with people like Robert Spencer and other people who are pro-revisionist, I mean, they refer to actual scholars here, like Patricia Crone, for example. Okay, these are real scholars, but this is a summary of their work. They themselves are not to be trusted. Like Robert Spencer, they're Christians and they're extremely anti-Islam. I mean, nothing wrong with being anti-Islam, but you don't want to refer to people who are anti-Islam for...
Well, you might think that when the author runs a site called Jihad Watch,
yeah,
they might have a little bit of an agenda.
Yeah. So, guys, I'm saying, like, I'm anti-Islam. That's why you shouldn't refer to, like, you even if I was I'm not a scholar, but even if I was a scholar, if I have if I was a Christian, a pro-Christian anti-Islam agenda, you shouldn't, even if I was a scholar, you shouldn't be like referring to me, right? right now, this is the only summary book of the actual scholars out there. That's why I refer to this, but I don't trust it. But there are references to genuine scholars that are in favor of a revisionist view of looking at early Islamic history. And to be fair, the scholars have a point. It's a very unfortunate that the only people that are now writing the text of these scholars and writing it in a form that is consumable by a layman, they're only people that are either Christian or anti-Islamic propagandists. The only person that is a genuine scholar and knows how to write for laymen is Tom Holland, and I suggest you read his book Under the Shadow of a Sword. That is a beautiful book that is like readable by non-scholars. But right now, as we speak, unfortunately, is because for non-anti-Islamic scholars, it's kind of really dangerous for them to touch the subject. People have gone after, Christianity and Judaism, and they examined the early history of them, and they have proven that the biblical account of history have been completely wrong. They haven't done that with Islam because it's as much. I mean, people as brave as Patricia Crone have. She died recently, but she has been living under death threats like ever since she's done that. So like, it's not something.
Tom Holland too. Tom
Holland as well. Yes, exactly. And I mean, they ask. I sent you a video, Susanna. I think more than a decade ago of Bart Ehrman. Somebody in the audience asked Bart Ehrman if he's ever going to examine the Quran the same way that he examined the New Testament. And do you remember?
Whenever I'm ready to stop living or something like that.
No, he said whenever I'm tired of living.
Yeah,
that's what he said. Yeah, so it's not easy to go after Islam the same way, especially by scholars, because when people like us, we're just online content creators, right? We're not in academia. These people's careers could be threatened. Their funding sources could dry up if they become too controversial.
That might have been edited later, but most of it does in fact come from the Prophet's early days in Medina. I will link Let's Talk Religion's amazing video on the topic in the description. I talked earlier about the year of Muhammad's death being...
Okay, so the problem with the Constitution of Medina, as I understand it, is that even people like Tom Holland himself said that most scholars agree that this is a historical document. I have to do more research on it because this book doesn't refer to it, and about the historicity of it. If you actually look at the document, the original document hasn't survived. Only references to it have survived. So the only way the scholars can decide whether the document is historic is based on the use of the language. Like references to the document is again referred to by Ibn Ishaq, and then which is only survives in Ibn Hisham, which is again around 200 years after the date of when the Constitution was drafted. So how are these scholars saying that they know that this document is historical, even though they don't have the original document? So this becomes a lot of detective work. But even if the document, the Constitution of Medina is a historical document, it's almost certain that it has been tampered with because of the references in it. For example, it mentions Muhammad, like it mentions the Prophet of Islam. And we know, both Islamic and non-Islamic scholars, that Islam was not a word that was used at that time. Right? Like even the Muslims were not, by the earliest Islamic sources, they were referred to as mu'minun. They were not referred to, like Islam was not the name of this religion. Muslims was not the name of the people that follow this religion. So the fact that the documents that we have of this says Islam, the Prophet of Islam, mentions Islam, shows that even if the document is historical, it was edited. We have an edited version of the document. It refers to Medina as Medina and not Yathrib. And the name was not named Medina already before at the date of the Constitution. So that's another thing to look at.
It's an amazing video on the topic in the description. I talked earlier about the year of Muhammad's death being 632, but that's the generally accepted.
Look at the Sahaba have their heads on fire as well. Oh my! Look at this, Sus. This is Muhammad. He's dying, and this man is hugging him. Mm-hmm. And look, the fires around Muhammad's head is going from under. Why is it going this way instead of up? The flames are horizontal instead of vertical.
This
What
isn't
kind of
realist. You do
why
know that
is-
like realism didn't develop in art history until much later.
So when Muhammad lied down, the flames went horizontal.
Oh my gosh. You
Definitely.
know it's not like that.
While there's some debate over it, there's some evidence to support the idea that his death was actually in 634. The difference comes from the correlation between the Islamic Hijrah calendar
Okay, I don't
and the
want to.
Gregorian calendar. The year of the Hijrah, or migration to Medina, might correlate to the years 622, 623, or 624, 625. And since we know that Muhammad died in the 11th year of the Hijrah, his death could either be 632
Okay, I don't want to do the rest of it. I think the rest of it is just about whether or not.
or 634.
Let me just really quickly go
This
through
would
it.
sort of change the timeline of early Islam, but at the same time, it means that Muhammad might be the only founder of
Oh,
an
no, let's
Abrahamic
continue.
religion to have been mentioned in a contemporary source, the aforementioned Dr. Navabi. Concerning his death, we do have some evidence that suggests that his death was later than usually believed. There are quite a few sources that actually put Muhammad right in Palestine, leading the invasion that we usually believe happened under Abu Bakr and later Umar.
Oh my
Again,
God,
you
this
can
is better what he's saying.
pause the video to read the whole passage.
All right, so I want to get to the part where he says. No, I don't want to get to this part.
And began to go up to the land of Palestine, plundering, enslaving, and pillaging.
Okay,
Here-
let's
this
just go through
Muhammad,
it. I'm
while
just
in
gonna
the
pause.
age and stature of youth, began to go up and down from his town of Yathrib to Palestine for the business of buying and selling. He saw the belief in one God and went back down to his tribesmen. He convinced a few, and they became his followers. He led a band of them who were obedient to him and began to go up to the land of Palestine, plundering, enslaving, and pillaging. He returned laden with booty and unharmed. Now, this source is kind of shady as well. This passage is a 13th century reconstruction of an 8th century account
Right.
of a source that is now lost. We don't know the source of that source either. There are quite a few scholars who believe that Muhammad was right there when Palestine was invaded by the Arabs, but many scholars don't find the evidence convincing. In the end, the historicity of Prophet Muhammad is a complicated subject. Almost 2 billion people around the world believe that they know enough about him to let him guide their daily lives. Any new research into his life and the first century of Islam has to be approached with utmost care. This makes progress a bit slow. Saudi Arabia has only relatively recently allowed archaeological research in their country, and still Makkah, Medina, and other holy sites are off the table. Hopefully,
Mecca is off the table.
in the future, we'll know more about this fascinating
It's unlikely since they're cementing the whole place.
prophet and his followers. This video is part of a collaboration
I don't know why he didn't show the years, because it's actually pretty. What I would do is to show that Muhammad had more than other prophets like Jesus and Moses. The contemporary reports about him is closer to his death than both Jesus and Moses. So that's a huge argument in favor of Muhammad existing. It's the closest 2 years. When it comes to Jesus, I think it's 15 years. When it comes to Moses, it's like so many years, right? So that's hugely in favor. Like 2 years is very small. But again, that means that we have strong evidence that there was a leader of Arabs that was supposed to be a prophet. But was that Muhammad? Or was that just a leader that was allegedly a prophet, a warrior prophet? Okay. Was his religion Islam? I don't think so. There's no reference to the Quran. There's no reference to Muslims, right? Was his name Muhammad? It doesn't seem like it. Okay. Was he born in Mecca? It doesn't seem like it. Was his religion Abrahamic? Probably. Was his religion anything like we know Islam today? Probably not. Okay. Is there anything that we know about him other than the fact that he was a leader of Arabs and he was a warrior prophet? No. Can any of the hadiths be traced back to him? No. Do we know anything about what he said and what he taught, like his life? No. So this idea of by Muslims that they know, and here's the thing: the fact that a lot of Muslims claim that they know the details, the most of Muhammad's life, actually works against them, right? Because a historical lie, has more details than historical truth, right? When you say the sources that refer to Muhammad, right? When they know exactly how he chewed his food, how he wiped his ass, how he which is true, like how many stones that he had in his hand when he wiped his ass. How did his wife wipe the cum off of his garments? How did he eat? What did he do when a bug fell in his drink? What did he think about wearing gold? What did he think about drinking this? How much salt do you add to your food? Like, if we know that this is not possible to know about someone 200 years after he's allegedly died. So he allegedly died. So when you know that all of this hadith cannot be accurate, then why are you believing the other parts of it? You're like, you can't be, as a historian, look at the same sources that are telling you things about Muhammad that nobody could know this much detail. There's no other person that we know this much. We don't know this much detail about people that live. We don't know this much detail about Kennedy. And we had cameras, and we had reporters, and we don't know all these things about them, right? So the fact that we know historically that you can't know this about a person, but then how could you as a historian be responsible enough to be like, well, I'm going to refer to the same sources that say these things, but I'm going to believe the other parts of it that is not this ridiculous. The same sources, as a non-Muslim historian, you refer to the same sources that say angels showed up in a battle and and fought on the side of Muhammad against his enemies. You're going to refer to the same sources, and you're going to be like, well, I'm going to ignore that part and believe the other parts that is not miraculous. Well, if you can't believe those things, then that's not a source that you could use as a source of history. Right? So, did Muhammad exist? Again, go back to what we said at the beginning. If by Muhammad you mean the prophet of Muslims who brought Islam and the Quran and the Sunnah and Hadith reflect his life, then I would argue that Muhammad did not exist. If by Muhammad you mean a man that led the Arabs out of a city that was not probably Mecca, with a religion that was probably not Islam, and he thought he was a prophet, and other Arabs thought he was a prophet, yes, I think it's very likely that person existed. What do you think? Do you agree? You don't know.
I don't know. I need to go do my own research.
Yeah, guys, don't believe me. Just do your own research, okay?
Hey, guys. If you're a fan of blasphemy and sexy Kali, like me, then that means that you probably want more blasphemous art. Well, I have good news for you. If you subscribe to our newsletter, link in the description below, then you get a free booklet of some of the tastiest blasphemous art available today. So, if you want some of this delicious blasphemy, and we're so generous that we update it for you guys weekly for free, all you have to do is sign up for our newsletter below. You can also go to blasphemousart.com/ebook. That's blasphemousart.com/ebook. Sign up with your email, and you get free gifts of this tasty blasphemy. What could be better? So make sure you sign up. Link below.